You've heard of the crucifixion of Jesus, of the nails that pierced his hands, of the crown of thorns driven into his forehead, of the weight of the cross he carried to Golgotha. But what if I told you that something happened on that dark day, something so mysterious and powerful that most Bibles never mentioned it? A story guarded like a sacred treasure by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, involving two of heaven's most powerful angels, Michael and Uriel, on a divine mission that changed the fate of an entire nation. Get ready to uncover a hidden secret of the crucifixion that will make you see this event in a completely new way. The crucifixion of Jesus is one of the most well-known moments in human history, a milestone that echoes through the centuries as the ultimate sacrifice for humanity's redemption. The Gospels tell us about the trial, the torture, the Roman soldiers mocking the man who claimed to be the king of the Jews, and the heavy silence that fell when he took his last breath. But there's a layer to this narrative that is rarely explored outside an ancient and resilient tradition, that of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. This tradition not only reaffirms the earthly events we all know, but adds a celestial dimension, a divine act performed by angels that connected Christ's blood directly to the soil of a distant land. Today, we'll dive into this mystery, guided by the presence of Michael, the heavenly warrior, and Uriel, the bearer of divine light, to understand how Calvary became more than an execution. It became the beginning of an eternal blessing. Before we go on, we want you to be part of this journey of discovery. If you're intrigued by this story and want to explore more secrets of the faith that shaped the world, subscribe now so you don't miss a single detail. Comment "I'm ready" and join us as we unravel this fascinating event that most Christians have never heard of. Let's begin. Picture the scene. Golgotha, the place of the skull, a barren hill outside Jerusalem. The sky is dark, as if creation itself were in mourning. 3 crosses rise against the horizon, and at the center is Jesus of Nazareth, his body marked by hours of suffering. Below him, the crowd murmurs in tones mixed with sadness, curiosity, and scorn. Roman soldiers, accustomed to the brutality of crucifixion, stride with steady steps, their faces impassive. To them, it's just another day's work, a public execution designed to crush any threat to the empire. Crucifixion was a cruel art the Romans had perfected. Nails pierced through wrists and feet, the body's weight made every breath a struggle. And to hasten death, there was the crurifragium, the act of breaking the victim's legs, preventing them from rising to breathe. It was a swift and merciless end. That day, as the sun began to set, the soldiers approached the crosses with their tools ready. They broke the legs of the 2 thieves hanging beside Jesus, a horrible sound echoing through the air. But when they reached the man in the center, something made them stop. Jesus was already dead. The Gospel of John, 19:33-34, records this moment. But when they came to Jesus and saw that he was already dead, they did not break his legs. But one of the soldiers pierced his side with a spear, and at once there came out blood and water. This blow, seemingly simple, was more than a medical detail or a confirmation of death. It fulfilled ancient prophecies. Not one of his bones will be broken, Psalm 34:20. And they will look on the one they have pierced, Zechariah 12:10. But for the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, it also marked the start of something extraordinary. As the blood and water flowed from Jesus' side, mixing with the dust below, human eyes saw only the end of a life. But the heavens were in motion. According to the homily on the Archangel Uriel, a text revered in the Ethiopian tradition, 2 celestial beings were present at that exact moment: Michael, the warrior archangel who leads God's armies, and Uriel, whose name means light of God, an angel of wisdom and divine mysteries. They weren't there just as spectators. They had a sacred mission, ordered by the Creator himself, centered on the blood pouring from Christ's wound. Imagine this: While Roman soldiers cast lots for Jesus' garments and the disciples wept in despair, these archangels hovered invisibly above the chaos, ready to act. Uriel, the Ethiopians say, held a chalice of light, a celestial vessel glowing with supernatural radiance. The instant the spear pierced Jesus' side, he spread his wings toward the suffering Savior. With deep reverence, Uriel dipped one of his wings into the stream of blood and water, carefully collecting it in the chalice. Michael, at his side, stood watch with a warrior's strength, ensuring nothing interfered with this holy task. This act wasn't just symbolic, it was a pivotal moment in the history of salvation, a link between Christ's sacrifice and a land thousands of miles away, Ethiopia. But why would these angels collect Jesus' blood? And what would they do with it? The Ethiopian tradition teaches that the blood of Christ, shed on the cross, wasn't meant to remain only at Golgotha. After collecting it, Michael and Uriel received a divine command to carry this sacred blood to the heart of Africa, to the land that would become one of the earliest strongholds of Christianity. With wings spread against the darkened sky, the archangels departed from Calvary, flying over deserts and mountains until they reached the highlands of Ethiopia. There, they sprinkled the blood onto the soil, each drop sanctifying the ground where it fell. These places, according to Ethiopian belief, were divinely marked to become future centers of the Christian faith, rock-hewn churches, secluded monasteries, sacred spaces that still echo this connection to Christ's sacrifice today. For the Ethiopians, this event explains why their nation embraced Christianity so early and with such devotion. In the 4th century, King Ezana declared Christianity the official religion of the Aksumite kingdom. But tradition says the spiritual seeds were planted long before, in that celestial flight of Michael and Uriel. The blood in Uriel's chalice didn't just redeem humanity, it consecrated Ethiopia as a chosen land, a place where God's presence would manifest uniquely. This narrative lives on in Ethiopian liturgy, especially in the Qidasi, the Holy Communion, where Christ's blood is celebrated as the foundation of the nation's faith. But why isn't this story in the Bible most of us know? The answer lies in the formation of the biblical canon. The early church selected texts based on criteria like apostolic origin and theological consistency. Figures like Uriel, widely mentioned in writings such as the Book of Enoch, were left out of the Western canon but preserved in the Ethiopian tradition, which maintains a broader Bible. So, while Michael and Gabriel appear in standard scriptures, Uriel remains a mysterious figure, a hidden treasure Ethiopia has guarded for centuries. This connection between Christ's blood and Ethiopia isn't just an ancient tale. It lives in the art, liturgy, and spiritual identity of the Ethiopian people. If you visit an Ethiopian Orthodox church today, you'll see Uriel depicted distinctly. He holds a red chalice or has the tips of his wings stained crimson, a visual reminder of his mission at Golgotha. These images aren't mere decorations. They're windows into the divine, painted to teach and inspire generations of the faithful. Every streak of red on Uriel's wings or in the chalice he holds tells the story of how Jesus' blood was brought to their land, transforming it into holy ground. In places like Lalibela, with its rock-hewn churches, ancient murals show Uriel raising his chalice to the heavens, the red liquid glowing like a beacon of holiness. The Tewahedo Orthodox Church, as it's called, sees this act of the archangels as the foundation of its Christian heritage. Unlike other nations that received the faith through missionaries centuries after the crucifixion, Ethiopians believe their connection to Christ began at that very moment on Calvary. When the Roman soldier pierced Jesus' side and the blood and water gushed forth, Uriel and Michael were there, capturing the essence of the sacrifice. The flight that followed, carrying the chalice of light to Ethiopia, was more than a physical journey. It was an act of cosmic sanctification, a divine seal that marked the nation as part of God's redemption plan. That's why Ethiopia prides itself on being one of the first Christian nations, a beacon of faith on a continent later transformed by that same message. Think about it for a moment. While the disciples were wrapped in sorrow and the Roman soldiers divided Jesus' garments, something extraordinary was happening beyond human perception. Michael, the heavenly defender who battles the forces of evil, and Uriel, the illuminator of God's mysteries, joined forces to fulfill a mission that would echo for millennia. The blood they collected wasn't just a symbol, it was the very power of salvation, a physical and spiritual bond between Christ's sacrifice and the Ethiopian land. Each drop that touched the soil was like a seed planted, destined to blossom into monasteries, churches, and a tradition of faith that would withstand the test of time. This narrative also explains the Ethiopian reverence for Christ's blood in their religious practice. During the Kidase, the Holy Communion ceremony, the wine mixed with water directly reflects what flowed from Jesus' side and what Uriel collected in his chalice. For the faithful, partaking in this ritual is more than remembering the sacrifice. It's reliving the direct connection their angels established with Calvary. They worship in a land they believe was literally touched by the Savior's blood, a privilege few nations can claim. This belief gives the Ethiopian Orthodox Church a unique identity, distinct even from other Eastern Christian traditions. But what makes Uriel so special in this story? Unlike Michael, who appears in Daniel and Revelation as God's warrior, or Gabriel, the messenger who announced Christ's birth, Uriel is a stranger to the canonical scriptures. His name, Light of God, suggests his role as a revealer of divine truths, but he was excluded from the Standard Bible. Why? In the early centuries of Christianity, Western church leaders set strict criteria for the canon, rejecting texts like the Book of Enoch, where Uriel plays significant roles, such as guardian of Eden and interpreter of apocalyptic visions. These texts, though ancient, were deemed too mysterious or disconnected from the central apostolic narrative. Yet Ethiopia, with its independent tradition, kept these writings, seeing in them a continuity of divine revelation. Uriel, then, is like a hidden figure, visible only in the light of Ethiopian faith. While Michael battled Satan and Gabriel delivered world-changing messages, Uriel operated in the shadows, fulfilling a mission few would recognize outside Ethiopia. His presence at the crucifixion alongside Michael underscores the stakes of what was happening. Christ's blood wasn't just to be shed, but to be preserved and carried to a chosen people. Together, these archangels formed a celestial duo, uniting strength and wisdom to execute a plan that transcended Golgotha and reached the highlands of Africa. The journey of Michael and Uriel didn't end with collecting the blood. After filling the chalice of light, they flew over the desert, crossed deep valleys, and hovered above Ethiopia's rugged mountains. Tradition says they sprinkled the blood strategically, choosing sites that would become sacred. Think of the churches of Lalibela, carved straight into the rock in the 12th century, or the Debre Damo monastery, accessible only by rope. These places, Ethiopians say, were preordained by the touch of Christ's blood, sanctified before Christianity even officially arrived in the region. When King Ezana adopted the faith in the 4th century, he was merely formalizing what the angels had already established. This story also makes us wonder, why Ethiopia? Why not another nation? The Ethiopian Orthodox Church believes God chose this land for its faithfulness and resilience. Isolated for centuries by the Muslim expansion, Ethiopia kept its faith intact, free from European influence, preserving traditions other churches lost. The blood of Christ, carried by Michael and Uriel, was a sign of this divine election, a covenant sealed at Calvary that gave Ethiopia a special place in Christian history. It's a narrative that blends the celestial and the earthly, the eternal and the historical, into a tapestry of faith that still inspires millions. Skeptics may question the absence of this story in the canonical Bible, but for Ethiopians, that doesn't diminish its truth. Oral traditions and homilies, like that of Uriel, were passed down with care, complementing the scriptures. Ethiopian art, with its vivid colors and deep symbols, serves as a silent teacher, keeping alive the memory of what happened that fateful day. When you see Uriel with his chalice or his red-tipped wings, you're not just looking at a painting. You're witnessing a moment when heaven touched earth and Christ's blood transformed a nation. Now that you know this incredible story of the crucifixion, with Michael and Uriel linking Christ's blood to Ethiopia, there's more to discover. Jesus' final words on the cross hide a profound meaning few understand. A powerful truth that goes beyond what you've been taught. Click the video on your screen now to explore this final mystery of Calvary. Don't miss this chance to see the crucifixion in a new light, revealing secrets that will transform your view of faith. Click now and dive even deeper into this spiritual journey.